Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Tableau Tutorial Tuesday. Every week on Tuesday we are going to put out another video with step-by-step instructions to build Tableau charts that you can take back to improve your own dashboards. Check back every week to gain insights into chart types you may not have considered previously. Today we're going to be going over control charts. As you can see by the completed product on the screen, these are good chart types to test whether your values lie between certain thresholds. Now for this video, for those thresholds, we're going to be using the window standard deviation table calculation function that's built within Tableau, but you could base these thresholds off of your own calculations or anything else if you needed to. Now in our example, we're even going to be able to test if they are 1, 2, or 3 standard deviations out of control, and we can change that with just a simple parameter. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the build here. So I have another workbook prepared. You can see it's the exact same visualization right here, just minus the control chart aspect. And in order to create our control chart, the first thing we need to do is base 2 reference lines off of our lower and upper threshold as we saw previously. Now the problem we have here is if I go to add a reference line, you'll notice that I cannot base it off of any value except for the sum of sales because it is used on my structure shelf. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create our upper and lower thresholds before we can add them to our view. So as I said before, we're going to be using the window standard deviation table calculation function that's built within Tableau. So we'll call this +1 standard deviations, and we're going to take the window average of the sum of sales plus a window standard deviation of the sum of sales. So this will be our upper threshold here because we're adding a standard deviation. We'll go ahead and press OK. I'm going to duplicate that calculation because we need to make our lower threshold as well. And now we can just simply edit that to take -1 standard deviation. Make sure you change your title as well. We'll remove the word copy and we're ready to rock and roll. So in order to base our reference line, we will have to use these in our view. I like to use my detail shelf because it's not going to change the chart itself. And now when I go to add a reference line, you'll notice that I can base it off of my upper and lower thresholds. Now we encounter a problem right away. You can see that it's just a reference line moving all the way down my screen. And remember, whenever we're using table calculations here, we just need to ensure we scope them. So we're going to scope this to pane across so we get a new average line or upper threshold per year. Now we'll repeat the process with the lower threshold here. So we'll add another reference line and we're going to base this off of the lower threshold. And we'll once again scope that lower threshold so we get a new line per. There we go, beautiful. Now we need to determine if our sales value lies between these upper and lower thresholds. And we're just going to use an if-then logic statement to accomplish that. So we'll create another calculated field here. And we'll say if the sum of sales, and remember this will aggregate to the level of detail of our view. If that is less than our upper threshold and the sum of sales is greater than our lower threshold, then we are in control. Else we're out of control, and we'll end the if statement. And we'll call this in control. All right, it's as simple as that. So now we can use that calculation onto our color field, and it's going to show us whether or not we are in or out of control. Now, one thing I like to do to clean up this chart just a little bit is you can see that as we pass from in control to out of control, since we're using a discrete month, it is giving you a slight gradient in where that color fades from blue to orange. And I'm not a huge fan of that because technically we're not easing in or out of control. You're in or out of control at a specific point. So to clean this up a little bit, I like to duplicate my sales field by holding control. And we can just right click to go dual axis now. And from here, using the power of our 3 marks cards, we can go ahead and remove the coloring from everything. We're going to change one of our 2 mark types to be a circle. And now we can simply add that calculation to the circle. And you can see that we have a much nicer means of viewing what's in or out of control. Now again, just to clean this up, I'm going to go ahead and edit these reference lines. I usually like to remove my labels. They look like a little bit of chart extras to me. And there you go. Now we have a nice looking chart. Now, if we would like to parameterize our upper and lower controls, we can do so by using, of course, a parameter. So let's go ahead and see how that works. So we're going to allow our ending user to choose whether they want 1, 2, or 3 standard deviations from the average line in the middle. So we'll first create our parameter here, and I'm going to call this standard deviation. We'll give an integer value, and we'll give a list of just 1, 2, or 3, because those are the amounts of standard deviations that we want to go out to. We'll go ahead and press OK. And now all we have to do is go over to our upper and lower thresholds and make sure that we multiply the standard deviation right here. Just multiply it times that parameter value. Whatever comes through from my ending user, that's what I want to multiply this by. And we'll repeat the process for our upper limit here. Oh, whoops, forgot my multiplication here. Times the standard deviation. There we go. And we'll do the same thing to our lower limit. There we go. And finally, we'll show our parameter control so that they can increase the number of standard deviations that they want that to go out by. And there you go. There you go. There you have a control chart. And that's all we have for you this week. Come back next week for another chart type.